The future's bright. So, we're here to talk about what we see in the future. And you've spent a career in institutional investment and capital markets, looking at it from the point of view of an investor. And I spent my career attempting to attract money from people like you, running a company in the public market. And so I think we're both half of the coin. And that's why it's exciting to talk with you today. So, in my mind, I got three main areas: the political, macroeconomic, regulatory environment. What's going on there in the next year to 2 years? And the second is the capital markets and what's going on with large pools of money, the people running the trillions and trillions of dollars, I guess hundreds of trillions of dollars. And then the third is technology. And of course, you love technology, you know the capital markets. We both have political opinions.
Yes.
Okay. So why don't we start with politics and regulation and economics? What do you see as we look forward, and how do you think it's going to affect Bitcoin?
Well, I think the most interesting thing that's happened, and we met someone from Mississippi, I think a congressman from Mississippi, and I'm seeing the politics around Bitcoin changing radically because it has become, the single issue that some people are voting on, and this is bipartisan. And even where we've moved in St. Pete, because people know that I'm very Bitcoin focused, the politicians have come to me and said, I want to pull together a room of Bitcoin enthusiasts, and I really want to learn from them what they want from us. Think about that. Think about that. That is a radical shift over the last few years. The other thing that I see, so a year ago, roughly, when Janet Yellen was appointed Treasury Secretary, I remember her first comments about Bitcoin were money laundering, nefarious characters, environmentally damaging. And then 2 weeks ago, someone's whispering in her ear, and we talked about this, you think it might be Gary Gensler. There is someone whispering in the ears of politicians, if you want to lose, if you want the US to lose out on this, one of the most amazing innovation platforms of all times, you keep talking like that. So she has changed her tune. So I'm very positive here. And of course, we're meeting people from around the world, just met from Honduras, Mexico. I think the movement is spreading pretty quickly now.
Yeah, I think the last 12 months has been just a 180-degree turn. If you roll back 12 months, you had so many smart people that had a lot of money and power saying, Bitcoin looks too good to be true. It's so good, someone's going to ban it. Right? We heard that. And I think a couple of weeks ago, with the executive order, what we had was the President of the United States giving a green light to Bitcoin. You have a one-page memo and it says, whereas 40 million Americans, rely upon this and this is part of their future, I hereby direct every government agency to get educated on Bitcoin and figure out how you incorporate it into the government. And I think that if I scan the last 100 years of history, and I ask, when's the last time the President of the United States directed the government to embrace a new asset class? The answer is never. So I think that Bitcoin should be taking a victory lap for what happened here just in the past few weeks in the United States government. Because a year ago, Bitcoin maybe it was Eastern technology and it wasn't Western technology, and maybe the government was going to ban it and we're afraid of it. And what happened in the last 12 months is Bitcoin moved west, Bitcoin has been embraced. The administration has given a green light to Bitcoin. And, Congress and the Senate are enthusiastically figuring out Bitcoin, and now there's a little jockeying, I think, about who can be the most pro-Bitcoin politician.
Yes, bipartisan. This is a bipartisan issue. It's bringing our country together in many ways, which is, given what we've just been through, so shocking. The one thing that I will say we need to watch out for is, you know, in China a few years ago, it was blockchain technology all the way, we're going to lead the way. And then, of course, they banned everything in favor of their own CBDC, of course, the digital yuan. I don't hear talk about that here, and I haven't heard much talk about, hey, this is going to displace the dollar as the reserve currency of the world. That's very good that we're not hearing that kind of rhetoric, but I am sure as the elections evolve, someone will raise it as an issue. Nonetheless, I think the momentum is clearly behind Bitcoin now.
I mean, the momentum is clearly behind Bitcoin. Yes. A lot of people have anxiety about regulation, and they ask me, "Aren't you afraid?" And I do not have anxiety about regulation. You know, when I look at this, I say, "Yeah, there's a lot of stuff to be worked through." FASB's working through some accounting issues, FDIC's working through some banking issues, SEC's working through some security issues, you know, the administration's working through all their issues. But regardless of how fast that happens and how sharp that occurs, I don't think there's any outcome other than favorable for Bitcoin. And I think that what I say over and over again is, Bitcoin is the ethical safe haven for any public figure, and it is the technical safe haven for any technical company, and it is the financial safe haven for any investors. So if you have anxiety, I think that people that are thinking about this are going to realize that Bitcoin is the risk-off crypto asset network, and all of this regulation is going to create volatility, but ultimately the single number one most important issue is you walk into a room with people that have collectively 10 or 20 trillion dollars, and you tell the story, and they say, well, you know, Bitcoin sounds better than gold, and Bitcoin sounds better than owning a big tech stock, and Bitcoin sounds like the solution to all the world's problems, and it's just so good that someone is going to take it away from me because it's too good. And what you need is this one-page memo from the White House saying, no, we're not taking it away from you. Well, and then at that point, people can start to put billions of dollars into this asset.
Sure,
class.
And I think we have someone at the SEC who is behind Bitcoin. At MIT, certainly that was the case. And you know, the SEC has declared, as we all know, that Bitcoin is not a security. Now, Gary Gensler is talking pretty aggressively about everything else out there being a security. So I think this has elevated Bitcoin from a risk point of view, not to a lower risk. I shouldn't say elevated. It's actually lowered the risk that it's so clear Bitcoin is not a security, and everything else, at least in Chairman Gensler's eyes, is.
So the regulatory future is bright. Let's talk about economics. Look, I think economically, everything that we're seeing in the last 12 months, inflation, war in Ukraine, Russian sanctions, the Canadian trucker crisis, CPI, unexpected PPI, and anxiety about how to manage a portfolio. All of these things have been bullish for Bitcoin, and anybody that thinks about it would realize that although they're unfortunate and unpleasant for the world, they have underscored to every mainstream objective observer the use case for a global non-sovereign store of value crypto asset like Bitcoin in a way that none of Michael Saylor's talking ever would.
Yes. Michael and I had a very spirited discussion yesterday afternoon about inflation as an issue, or is it ultimately going to go away? And we don't agree on everything, but one thing that I know and that we agree on is that if inflation is an issue, clearly Bitcoin is a great hedge against inflation. When we look at the deflationary impact of the various technologies around which we have centered our research, we think longer-term deflation and creative destruction associated with disruptive innovation, that's the bigger risk. And when you think about Bitcoin in those terms, you're thinking about a hedge against counterparty risk. So if we're going to have this debt deflationary bust that some still worry about out there, you've got Bitcoin as a hedge against that. So, it's, as an investor, whenever I hear win-win, I usually don't believe it. But as it is very interesting to watch the equity markets, or the investors in equity markets, treating Bitcoin and other crypto assets like they are treating the rest of tech, which is not very well of late. And to see the holding behavior in the Bitcoin community, I think, is it 70% of the Bitcoin outstanding, so roughly 13.5 million units of the 19 are in long-term holding hands, so more than 6 months. So the community gets it, and my fellow investors will get it with time, but in the meantime, it's going to be a very nice ride.